All right, here we are about an hour ago. We had a very traumatic event in our home, and I want to tell you about what happened. So what happened was we were sitting around eating pork chops and rice and peas, and I like the kind of pork chops that has a bone in it. And we have two Shih Tzus. One of them is a little bit older than the other. This one here, her name is Ginger, and we actually rescued her from a puppy farm up in Athens a few years ago. I think we paid $50 for her. She was the mother of the puppies, and they retired her, and so she came to live with us. And she was pretty rough when we got her. But anyway, we were eating pork chops, and this one here gets a hold of a pork chop bone about that big. And apparently she was trying to chew on it or eat it, and then we saw her walk around the living room kind of panicking, and she was choking. And my wife and I both got concerned. And I got down there on the floor, and I stuck my finger down her throat, and I could feel the bone in her throat, but I couldn't get two fingers in there. And she was starting to walk around and get a little panicky and a little more difficult to deal with, trying to get your finger down in there. And so I tried shaking it out of her, and maybe got the back end of a spoon to get down in there. I was really starting to get upset. My wife was too, and the dog was very distressed. We were both working on her, trying to get the pork chop bone out. And my wife finally got the nerve to stick her fingers in the dog's throat, because my wife's fingers are naturally smaller, and she could get both a thumb and a finger in there and grab that bone. And it felt like we struggled for maybe about 4 minutes with the dog, and we finally got the bone out. But the dog had gotten so distressed, one of her eyes looked like it was actually going to come out of her head. And then she went limp. After we got the bone out, the dog was limp, was not breathing, and felt dead. There was no heartbeat, no breathing, and she was limp. And so I took her in the kitchen. I don't know why I took her in the kitchen. And this is the crazy part, and I think a lot of people might have done this, but I gave the dog mouth to snout resuscitation. I gave it to her, and I was doing chest compressions, and my wife was just upset as could be. She was on the floor in the kitchen with me, did not know what to say or do. She was crying, and I was just like, I'm gonna try it again. And so I gave her another series of breaths. She doesn't taste very good. Anyway, nothing. And I thought, this feels like a dead animal. I've had a dead animal, a dead pet in my arms before, and this dog felt dead. And so two of the boys that got so upset, they went out in the garage. They couldn't take the stress. And so I gave her one more set of breaths and some chest compressions, and I sat up, and the dog was breathing, and I stuck my ear to her chest, and I could hear a heart beating. And then one of her eyes kind of started rolling around her head, and she just laid there. And then a couple minutes later, she started licking her nose. And then we wrapped her up in a blanket. We finally put her back in her bed. This is her little dog bed, because that's her favorite spot. And then she slowly, over the next 20 or 30 minutes, regained consciousness. And here she is, and she's alive. Her name is Ginger. And me and my wife saved this dog's life. And I just wanted to share that with somebody. So here you go.